guys, welcome to the first night of life groups. I hope you guys are excited for this year to grow in your relationships with one another, and most importantly, to grow in your relationship with Jesus Christ. We are starting this year with a series called Understanding Us, where we will be learning about the doctrine of man. Now, the doctrine of man is a theological concept we will be unpacking these next few weeks. But what it boils down to is answering some of life's most important questions. Who are we as people? What is our essence? What is our nature? Are we all that we are supposed to be? Tonight, we are kicking off this series by learning about the creation of mankind. This is fundamental in understanding who we are. Before we can understand who we are, we must understand where we come from. Our society gives us a wide range of answers. Those from a naturalistic perspective will tell you that we are all merely the product of biology, derived from random evolutionary causes, the coming together of chemical goo. And we continue on as the propagation of X and Y chromosomes. Those with a more creative bent will go so far as to say that we are the embryonic state of intelligent alien life forms. But these ideas, while fascinating, are unsatisfying. Where do we really come from? So before we get into the lesson, I want you to pause and read a few verses about the origins of humanity. Welcome back, guys. We are going to unpack some of those passages you read. But before we do, I want you guys to know our main point for the night. Our main point, what we want you to take away from tonight, is that we are a beautiful creation, carefully made by a loving Creator God. We are a beautiful creation, carefully made by a loving Creator God. God formed us from the dust of the earth. He molded us and formed us like a potter does with clay. Because we were made in this way, we have a special beauty and value that nothing else in creation does. However, because of sin, which we'll talk about in a later lesson, we certainly have imperfections. The oneness and the wholeness in our persons that God intended are tainted with sin. The effects of sin on the lineage of mankind are apparent. We have defects in our bodies, defects in the way we think, defects in what we desire. Certainly, some are easier to see than others, and we'll never know why some people are given some that others are not. However, the Bible does tell us that the disadvantages we are born with can be used to glorify God. Listen to this passage from John 9, verses 1 through 3. As he, meaning Jesus, passed by, he saw a man blind from birth. And his disciples asked him, "Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?" Jesus answered, "It was not that this man sinned, or his parents, but that the works of God might be displayed in him. Yet even the defects that we possess do not negate the beauty and care with which we were created." If you saw an old cracked painting in the corner, you might not think much of it. However, if I told you it was created by Leonardo da Vinci or Michelangelo, what would you think then? You would take the picture and run. Why? Because its value, first and foremost, lies in the value and worth of the one who created it. So, despite your brokenness as a result of sin, you are nonetheless a masterpiece created by God, the God of the universe. Don't ever forget that truth. We have to both assert our value as people crafted and formed by the ultimate artist, God Himself, while also not overlooking the detrimental effects of sin in the world and in ourselves. This brings to mind an interesting question that I'd like you to answer with your groups. I hope you had some good discussion about that question, and I want to talk about it a little bit. If we only emphasize our value, we will miss how far we are from perfection. That's like thinking you are the best basketball player in the world because your dad is LeBron James. While that certainly has value, you should also especially know how far you are from that standard because your dad is LeBron James. You have a first-hand look at seeing the skill he has and how great of a basketball player he is. And the same is true for us. As Christians, we know we have value because we are created by God, formed carefully by Him. But we can also examine in ourselves how imperfect we are because we know who God is and we can measure ourselves by Him and His perfect standard. We know how far short we fall. But on the other hand, if we only emphasize our brokenness, we lose all reason for protecting or preserving life. If there's no inherent value, then we have every reason to cast people off if they are no longer useful to us. As we conclude tonight, I want you to know that these passages about creation not only tell us important information about ourselves, but also important information about God. It teaches us that God, from the very beginning, was willing to get His hands dirty for us. I want you to picture the intimacy of God kneeling down in the mud in order to mold us and bending over us to breathe life into us. Perhaps the first thing that Adam saw as his eyes opened was the smiling face of God. And friends, God, from the beginning of time until the end, has not stopped getting His hands dirty for us. God comes into the mess in order to give us life. Perhaps you've been listening to this lesson tonight, and it's hard for you to believe what I'm saying. Maybe you believe it with your head, but you don't feel it in your heart. I don't feel beautiful. I don't feel carefully created. Why did God create me this way? Why am I not like the others? A lot of people ask those same questions about the blind man that we read about in John 9. And I'm sure the blind man himself wondered the same things. Why was he created this way? Jesus tells them that it happened for the glory of God. Great. But it was more than just empty words. The passage says, after saying this, He, meaning Jesus, spit on the ground, made some mud with the saliva, and put it on the man's eyes. Go, He told him. Wash in the pool of Siloam. This word means sent. So the man went and washed and came home seeing. Jesus doesn't just give the people an easy answer. He does something infinitely better. He shows the man that He is the Creator Himself, come to give hope to all those who cry out His name. He formed the mud that gave this man sight, just as God formed us from dust in the very beginning. Jesus gives us hope for our brokenness. Keep trusting him. Remember your value. Remember how far you are from perfection. And never forget that Jesus has come to give you life and to restore you and renew you and make you a new creation. That's my prayer for you all tonight and for this year. Keep trusting Jesus. Keep turning to him. And so for the rest of your time tonight, I'd love for you to think through what you'd like your life group to be this year. How can we help each other to know, to love, and to trust Jesus more? So here's some questions to guide you in your time.